Life happens. Ups and downs, valleys and mountaintops. Tragedy, joy, loss, hope. One thing to remember, whether good or bad, is that things can change. This is a series when we talk about the moments when life happens. When life throws you situations that you just didn't see coming. Those moments can feel dark, overwhelming, and of course, very lonely. But you are not alone. We want you to know that no matter who you are, there are people and resources available to help you prepare as best as you can for these moments and to walk through these moments the best way possible. Welcome to a very special episode of Life Happens. Shantel, Isaac, good morning. Welcome, good evening, good afternoon. How are you?
Doing well.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, Shantel, you have a very special story. An artist, a mommy, a teacher, and then all of a sudden, oops, life happened. Tell us how your story went down.
Well, it started out unassumingly like any other thing. I was living in Clarendon, working as a teacher, and my landlord at the time, she had an appointment with her agent, Mr. Isaac Johnson, and she suggested to him to have a conversation with me about getting a policy. And he did. And my initial thought, as anybody in my position would thinking, boy, I'm gonna start getting a little money yet, and here comes somebody wants some of it. But I sat down and I listened, and he was persuasive, and I decided to take the bare minimum.
As little as you could have passed.
As little as I could possibly take. And so I did, and I had it for a few years. A few times, I would have done away with it if it wasn't for Mr. Johnson.
So the light bill go up, the rent go up, and then you're like, maybe we can sacrifice the policy.
Yeah. I don't really think we did need it, but it's there. And because of changing jobs, and I had to keep on doing the salary deduction, and sometimes it didn't go through, and so the policy lapsed at one point, or two of them at one point. Mr. Johnson would call me each time and say, Shantel, we have to talk.
Yeah. Get back on it, girl.
Right. So I remember the last time something like that happened, he came to me, he picked me up, and we were there talking, and I said, sir, can't bother with this now. This is supposed to be one of those things you do and forget it. If me have to go over it one more time, we just not gonna bother with it. But he sat there and he listened to me rant and rave, and he just allowed me to talk. When he finished, he said, all right, if you decide that you're not going to do it, you have to cancel it. I'm not going to do it for you.
So, no information, you'd have to go Google how to cancel it.
Right. And but him say, but in any case you don't, this is what it is, right? And this is what you have to pay. And I stepped out of the vehicle, went into the ATM machine, and I thought about it a little, and I just got everything and paid for it, paid for what I'd owed.
So you didn't cancel the policy?
So I didn't.
But you were this close?
But I was that close to canceling. So I did not. I paid it off and went ahead again, right? On Mr. Johnson's encouragement, I did, right? Had it for a couple of years, and it was just there. Didn't even remember I had it. Then
life happened.
Then life happened. It started out just like probably a normal cold, I developed a cough. This cough was persistent. Nothing that I did would help it. Nothing that normally helps a cold will help it. No garlic or onion or lime or the regular cough medicine. Went to the doctor, got a prescription, fill it. That didn't help. Went back to the doctor, got some more. That still didn't help. One doctor told me, oh, it might be the chalk dust that you're working in.
Because you are a teacher.
Because I was teaching at the time. We didn't have whiteboards.
Yes, no whiteboards.
We didn't have whiteboards. So it was chalk. And so it might be the chalk dust, it might be the dry, hot time and your sinuses and that. So I got stuff for that and that didn't work. So then one doctor said to me, if this don't work, then go and see an ENT specialist because the problem was in my throat. So I started noticing stuff with my throat, the coughing, then in talking, being in class, I would just become hoarse.
And it's not from overuse,
just regular school, regular talking. Then I noticed there was a lump at the base of my throat. Me looking at it, I would ask persons if they saw it, but they would say no, they don't see it. But I saw it. Sometimes I thought I was seeing things, but it was there. Then I started having breathing problems. I would be lying down, sleeping, and the difficulty to breathe just woke me up.
Wow.
And it's at that point I said, the regular doctor not going to help me.
No, but I wait for the referral to go to the ENT.
I need to go see the specialist.
Yeah.
So it was the beginning of my Easter break. I went, saw the specialist in Portmore, and he did a test where he put a camera up my nose, down my throat, as far as it could go. When he was finished, he sat me down, held my hand, and he said, there is something there. You can't tell me what it is just by looking, but there's something there resting on my vocal cords and my airways that's causing the hoarseness and the breathing problems. And he was going to give me a letter to take to the university hospital, and I should prepare myself because based on his observation, he thinks that they're going to admit me at the same time. And the tears just start flowing.
Of course.
And I was still having the breathing problems. And he calm down. And so I went home and took somebody with me, and we went to the hospital. They did a whole array of tests, X-ray, ultrasound, blood tests, scans, this, that, and they have me sign papers. I'm just sitting there wondering, getting more and more anxious and all of these things. They admitted me. I was there for a week. And during the course of the week, I did a biopsy.
At that point, did you even think? Did you even remember any of the things Mr. Johnson had gone through with you, or was your mind just completely focused on what was happening to you?
And at that point, I didn't even remember the insurance. I was just thinking about what was happening at the moment, and not even wanting to think what it could be, but just hoping that whatever it is, they're going to take it out and I'm going to be okay. Fine. I'm going to go back to work. Because I was fully conscious throughout the biopsy and they were talking to me. And so it was like not that serious.
In your mind, it still hadn't gotten to that place where it was serious. It still hadn't gotten
to that place. All right, so I said, all right, you'll get the results in a while. Went back to work because I spent almost all my holiday in the hospital.
Oh, gosh.
Went back to work, went and collected the result. And I went by myself.
Why?
Because
It still wasn't
it
serious.
still wasn't, yes, that big of a deal. Went by myself to collect the results. I was sitting there and the doctor sit down and told me I had stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was shocked. I was like in disbelief. And as he started to explain what it was, what it would require, I'm sure I zoned out. Like just trying to process what he said initially.
How old were you at that time?
At the time, I was 27.
Nobody sees that coming at 27.
And yeah, so in my mind, I was young, I was healthy, not so much on the fitness side, but but I was good.
Yeah.
So, and I don't have any history of cancer in my family, so it was totally unexpected. And while it was hard hearing it, the hardest part was relaying the news. So telling my relatives was almost heartbreaking. And they expressed their sympathies and they cried, but they're very praying, a very praying family. So everybody was praying for me and encouraging me right off the bat. Right.
When did it occur to you that this was gonna cost something? This was gonna start being a heavy weight on my pocket?
All right, so I've always heard the stories that cancer treatment is expensive and all of that. So, but the real cost of it didn't really occur to me until I filled that first prescription.
I see your face. I'm waiting to hear the zeros behind the number.
When so I was told I was going to do treatment once a week, every 2 weeks for 6 months. And I would get the prescription, I'd have to go and fill it. And when I took it to the pharmacy, the first prescription I filled was for a little over $25,000.
25,000.
25,000, and there were 6 items on the prescription, and it was a little over 25,000.
And you would have to do this once a week?
For
every 2 weeks?
Every 2
so
weeks.
That's twice a month?
For 6
For
months.
6 months.
So 12 courses for 6 months.
My math's not good, so I can't multiply it out to tell you how much is that.
And that was just the tip of it. Because while the treatment, and every time you go back, it was more. It was more.
Really? In the space of 6 months?
In the space of 6 months, the cost almost doubled.
Are you serious?
The cost for the same 6 medication almost doubled.
By the end of the 6 months?
By the end of the 6 months. And that's just a part of it. When you're on chemo, they tell you, while it's killing the bad cells, it's killing some of the good cells. So your body gets weak and you are susceptible to other sickness. And if you get too weak, you have to get treatment to boost the immune system, and that costs. And then you have tests you have to do in between to make sure the chemo is working.
And
that's cost.
When did it come to you? Hey, I have some insurance. Can this be helpful to me? I have some coverage.
So, Mr. Johnson normally checks on me regularly, right?
Good stuff, Mr. J.
Right, he's like a great uncle in my mind. So he normally checks on me regularly. And I was at home one day and I'm not sure if he called me or I called him, but a call was made, and I asked him the question, sir, what about this? Because it's not one of those, it's not breast cancer or skin or lung, so it's not so common. So am I covered? I didn't tell him right away that I was sick. I was asking, is this illness,
If I had this,
if
it was
I had
hypothetical
this,
at the time.
is it covered? And he said, what's happening? I said, I'm just asking. I'm just asking. And he said, okay, let me find out and get back to you. And he got back to me the same day. And he said to me, he extended his sympathies, and he said to me, all I needed to do was get the information from the hospital saying, this is what I have, this is when I found out. And I got it to him, and less than the time it took me to get my result of what I had, I got my check from Sagicor.
Oh gosh. Literally, I'm sitting here saying to myself, every time you speak, I want to go like this, because you never know. It's just something that will just pop up. Life will just happen.
Because for me, initially, it was just a cough.
Yeah. Just a simple cough.
Just a simple
and everybody in Jamaica have sinus. You drop, everybody walk up and down.
Right.
And it's nothing.
And maybe if it had not gotten to the point where I wasn't able to breathe properly, I probably would have just sit down there treating this cough.
Yeah. And that would have been that. And the craziest part of it, and now I would love to jump over to Mr. Johnson. How long before that call was the call when she tell you that she won't cancel it because it attacks out her pocket?
Well, that actually, I think it could have been about two years.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just in that space of time before.
At that time, Shantel was at a school in Kingston. She now moved out to a school and basically permanent in Clarendon. So when that call came, could have been about 2 years.
Right.
So, when that question was asked, specifically about the critical illness,
Submarine.
Something clicked, and I said, why did you ask? Why you ask? Right? Why nothing? I said, come on, man, there must be something.
Yeah.
But certainly I was happy that day when I went in, met with Shantel, and when she looked at the other policies, figured that one, because she's young.
Yep.
Two, hereditary, nobody in the family had come down with any critical illness, cancer for that matter. And I said to her, you don't buy these policies when you have a critical illness. You buy it before, because none of us can tell what tomorrow holds.
Yeah. So she almost didn't get that specific policy that we're talking about.
No, she got the policy.
Yeah, but she almost didn't.
But she
'Cause it was
almost
an
didn't.
extra
Almost,
cost.
yes, almost didn't. But good sense prevailed, and I think the Lord spoke to her and said, pay it up, pay it up, And so, but one of the things that I found with her, and when I spoke with her and I said, look, I sympathize with the whole thing, but guess what? Critical illness is not a death sentence. And the fact that it's caught early, then life can go on. But it is what will have to use to make that life go on. And I like to tell stories. Somebody said to me, a story can be true, but I tell the true stories because of the number of persons I've known who have been diagnosed and have lived a healthy lifestyle for many years. Can't forget one teacher. I went to her school and I introduced critical illness, and she said, well, Mr. Johnson, I can't get critical illness. So I said, well, I'm certain that you haven't passed the age because I had all of that information. So you can't. She said, no. I said, you tell me why. She said, I'm a cancer survivor.
Oh, wow.
And it was caught early. It was treated. I wish I knew about critical illness at that time.
There you go.
You know, so it really made a difference. Shantel had that, what I call spirit of resilience. She believed that once the treatment, once she continued on her medication, she had a faith and belief that she would be healed.
Yeah.
And I can't forget, it could have been about 2 years ago, Shantel. No, it's not so long, you know. Visited her school. She was still in Clarendon.
Still working.
And she said, sir, I have good news for you. I said, what's the good news? She said, I did some tests today. This is after she went through. The claim was paid, went through. She said, the test shows that I'm now cancer-free. And I said, thank you, Lord.
Right.
You know, thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
Yes.
How often does it happen that you see people fight you on the critical illness part, to fight you to say, no, I don't need that little extra, I don't need that little extra, and then it turns out that they do need it?
So many times, I can share another story. This person, this lady, I knew her situation, had frequent high blood pressure, pressure up, and this sort of thing. And so I said to her, look, when I looked at her portfolio and discovered that there was no critical illness, and I made an appointment, visited her during the lunchtime at her school, and we sat down, we discussed it. And we're there writing up the application, until it reached the point now where she needed to sign, which she did.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked for the premium.
Mm-hmm. The money part.
Right?
Give me the money now, and then
you
that's
know,
where the problem jumps
She looked at me and it was like she got up. Right? I said, where must I get it from? Where must I get it from? So I said, well, I know, there's your bag. Your bag is over there. And she went in the handbag, she took it out, and she just pushed it on the table.
Grudgingly.
Yeah, and, you know, I was hurt with the manner in which she pushed it. I said, you know, if this was for me, I wouldn't take it.
But it's for you.
But it's for you. About a year or so after that, she suffered a stroke.
Wow.
Right side went dead.
Wow.
And when, long and short, when the claim was processed and I took the check to her, this is one of the things I believe in. I take pride in taking the check myself. Okay, we know how.
She know when she gets hers.
We know at a situation where once it's over a certain amount, then that has to be done through an electronic method. When I took her check to her and I handed her the check, she cried. I said, no, Mr. Johnson, you know why I'm crying?
Yeah.
I said, yes, I do know, but that's behind me. And I use these experiences as I go to market this product, critical illness. Another familiar and popular saying that I use is that accidents don't set up like rain.
Talk true, talk true.
And critical illness sometimes, just like in Chantel's case, where she thought it was just sinus, it was just a hoarseness and a cough. You never can tell.
Yeah.
I always say it is better to have this critical illness and you don't need it. And down the road, you say, boy, I have it and I don't need it. Than you need it and you don't have it.
Amen. Thank you, Uncle Isaac. That's what your name is now, you know, Uncle Isaac. We can't call you Mr. Johnson again. Because Shantel, so you're the nice, loving uncle, and we see that. Shantel, I applaud you. I give you all, honestly, I give you everything I can give you because you are amazing. The strength that you've shown, the fact that you made it through it, and the fact that you are smart enough to keep going with the
with the right support.
Yeah,
right.
Of course, with Uncle Isaac's support.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Uncle Isaac. We love you.
Welcome.
And you can get enough more niece and nephew out there. I'm sure they'll be waiting for you. Shantel will tell them.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Well, she has recommended Quite a few.
She's your trainee. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
guys.
Okay, welcome.
It's good to be here.
Good. Thanks for having us.